So, Yeshuani,
Yes, hello.
hello. Thank you for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, for sure. Well, yeah, getting right into this thing, would you be able to give us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you come from, and then, yeah, we can work from that.
Sure. Well, I think the most relevant part of my background that's coming forward immediately is really just kind of what I've been through in terms of limitation and pain. And I don't mean to say that everything has been limitation and pain, but truly that has defined where I came from
Mm,
and what I do now. And it's all wrapped up in that. So actually, I would say that the limitation and pain that I've experienced in terms of, for example, I had a chronic illness my whole childhood, which really crippled me, like physically. I really wasn't able to participate a lot of the time in like normal life. And I would consider that as well as being surrounded by a lot of negative programming, I would say all of that has led me to and contributed to what I do today, which is really just try to give away the resolution of those energies. Like I took all of that and instead of, well, I won't say instead of letting it take me down because in truth there was no real option. Like I was down. I would say I came into the resolution of those energies by being initiated to several spiritual experiences, let's say, very metaphysical, mystical experiences, which really illuminated to me the purpose of those things, negativities and pains and traumas and things like that. And really, I've just created sort of frameworks to work from that, which I think we all kind of got to some degree, maybe not to the degree that I was exposed to, like limitation and pain, but there's through threads throughout society to everything that I experienced. So I really just try to take my experience and use the initiations that I've been gifted with because they were spontaneous. I didn't do any plant medicines or anything to like see the other side, regain my memories from the other side, etc. So just walking from here to here and then giving all that away. That's my life's mission. My life's goal is how do you walk yourself out of negative programming? How do you walk yourself out of having been through massive amounts of pain and actually coming to empowerment over that? So I don't really think there's a word for what I do right now, but I'm essentially just compiling all of what I have and trying to give it away in any way possible. Workshops, creating frameworks, creating logics to, and step by step, how to get from here to here. So I would say alchemizing pain. That's a lot of what I do.
wow.
And it sounds heavy and stuff, and a lot of it I find to be extremely exhilarating and light and actually like magical. So I don't want it to sound like it's all heavy because actually choosing to not let it be that has allowed the magic and all of that to actually like slowly overtake all of the pain. So it's almost this blending process. I don't know if that answers, but
No.
essentially it's that. It's just everything, this horrible amount of pain, alchemizing it into workable frameworks of like, hey, if you've experienced this, it doesn't need to define you. It doesn't need to be a limitation forever. It doesn't need to be that. And actually, in actual fact, when I look at things in a psychic way, like looking at the energetics of things, the people who chose extreme amounts of pain almost always have an extreme gift or an extreme offering they're intending to bring. And the experiencing of that pain is critical in order to actually develop that offering or to give that offering away. So, what I mean is that especially those here in service, those who would consider themselves, light workers, consciousness workers. Um, there's no real differentiation or definition, but those who consider themselves and are very highly aware of their role here and their mission, they almost always create their blueprint to include pain or some kind of trauma so that the human being that they inhabit can become aware of how that's a distorted program or how that's not working. And unfortunately, the way that that is most effectively conveyed is through pain and trauma. It
Yeah.
forces your eyes open, it forces them open. So I really have a mission to help people understand that their pain is their power. It's one and the same. It's not different. It's not going to take you down. It's actually trying to deliver you directly to the precipice of your power. So I would say that that's sort of the flavor of what I offer. I hope that that makes sense.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, the darkness is what paves way for the light.
Yeah, I think that I actually think the darkness is light. It's just undiscovered light yet. So it's very scary to us because we don't identify it as light, but actually, as soon as you do shine your light onto it, there it is as light. Can't be
Mm,
darkness anymore. And
yeah,
light is awareness, is information. So, yeah, I think anything we consider darkness is actually just a massive amount of potential. It's infinite potential,
that's good.
unmanifest form.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
I
I try
like
not to
that.
shy away from any darkness, from anything dark, because truly, I find that it holds not just the potential of the universe we're having, but individual potential. It's all wrapped up in your darkness, what you would consider darkness.
Yeah. Mm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you say the darkness in that transmutation process serves as just lessons so that we can see the light?
I don't see it as lessons, actually. I think it's a helpful framework to see working through darkness as lessons. But actually, I think a more empowered stance is to see it as your birthright to experience what's located in the darkness. And it never is anything bad. It never really is. It's always more of your power. So, for example, if you are very fearful of something, a situation or an experience, like you're scared to go through something, and you actually dare to just hold the space for yourself to go through it, it never ends up that it was that dark. It always ends up that, wow, I did it. Wow, actually, now I have all this power. Actually, now I know what I'm capable of. It's always coming, stepping more into your potential. The more you step into your darkness, the more you're stepping into your potential. And I really do believe that. So the lessons, I think, are only lessons in becoming aware of self and what is actually a good or a, not good thing. I think it's all good, actually. And I really mean that. I know that that's a controversial take to say that all darkness is actually good, just disguised as unknown. But I do actually think that. I think we can admire ourselves in our unknowing, and then it appears that, we are that. But I don't think it's actually possible to be that. We either are aware of ourselves or we're not aware. And that's light and dark. That's it. So, yes, lessons, but I don't think it's actually that, for example, that darkness after you learn the lesson remains so. It doesn't. It converts to light. So, it's not really that that exists outside of you as a lesson to learn. It's more just we're just moving that way and integrating that darkness into ourselves. So yes,
Yeah.
I think it's lessons, but I don't think that's the purpose of them actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little deeper than that, than the label of lesson. I get that.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
do think it's a helpful framework though, because obviously before you're aware that darkness is potential, you have to approach it in a way that you can approach it. And I think, learning lessons is a helpful way to approach it. But I also think that there's something deeper we need to acknowledge, which is that we are already complete. And that's really true. Like we come here purposefully cutting off 99.9% of our awareness. And so when we're here in this context of having not that awareness, we think that this is what we are, but we are complete. We are whole. We're literally zooming in so deeply into ourselves and cutting off all of our other awareness so that we can actually look at what's going on here. Because in truth, if we had access to all of our awareness here, we wouldn't see what we're seeing. We wouldn't be able to because it would be too bright and this would be blown out in highlight. And that's really what it would look like. We wouldn't be able to. So we have to actually cut ourselves off. It's not that we are cut off or that that's a real thing, a real state that we exist in. We purposefully do it to ourselves. So
Yeah.
I would say that we are already complete and whole. And so that kind of changes my analysis of what is darkness and it kind of forces me to change how I see that because we're
Hmm.
here working with and exploring and getting deeply into the darkness on purpose actually. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily that we need to escape that. I think it's actually going deeper into it and seeing what is actually there. But you have to be brave because it is
Definitely.
scary.
Yeah. I like that though. That's a solid metaphor. If it was all light, you wouldn't be able to see anything. I mean, just think about when
Right.
you stare at the sun or a very bright light, it's like, oh, it blinds you. So,
Exactly.
yeah, extend that to our whole reality. It's like we need the contrast in order to give this beautiful portrayal of life. If it was all good, then we wouldn't be able to see. And if it was all dark, we also wouldn't be able to see. So it is this dance between the yin and the yang of that.
Yeah. It's like if you want to see the Milky Way at night, you can't
Mm,
you can't be in a city, can you? You can't be with all the lights, can you? It won't be able to be
hmm
visible. And I think that's a good metaphor for like what we are experiencing here. I don't think it's that we're experiencing our lower aspects. I think it's that we're experiencing ourselves if you cut off 99% of our awareness. So we're refining that little tiny bitty bit that we're being right now. We're just refining that to be more light, to know itself more as light. So it's
mm,
almost like we zoom way in. Okay, we refine this tiny little piece that is us throughout this lifetime. Okay, now a tiny bit more of us is aware. Okay, now we go back and then we keep doing this over and over. So it's a very slow process, but I think that's what it has to be in order to dive into this much nuance, which is how I see it. We're very nuanced right now. We're very zoomed in. We're tiny and we're not really that tiny. So
mm,
yeah, to see it, we have to really change our conditions in order to even see what we are at this level of being cut off. And we're not really cut off. It's actually, we're not cut off at all. We have the appearance of being so.
hmm Yeah. It's quite hard to put this into words because it's sort of a simultaneous paradox. It's like we are cut
Yeah.
off and we're not cut off at the same time. So, how we structure sentences is in absolutes. So when we reach the
Right.
period, it's almost like you're inevitably going to contradict oneself and you're going to reach a paradox. But I
Right. I
understand.
think it, yeah, I think it's kind of like if you put a blindfold on, you still have eyeballs, but they're just, you purposefully shut
That's
them
good.
off.
I
And
like
that's what
that.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more what it's like what we're doing here. It's like we still have every connection. It can't actually go away. It's impossible. But we're purposefully not accessing that right now
Mm,
for the purpose of evolution also of this plane. It's not just for us as individuals or as souls. Some people are here working on that level of developing their essence, but in reality, the whole point is that we're evolving this reality and we're kind of evolving in tandem. So consciousness evolves in tandem with every single layer, obviously. So cosmic, galactic, planetary, individual, human, cellular, we're all evolving at the same time. But this reality, I don't think people understand that we're evolving it as well. And we evolve it through evolving our conscious awareness. So each
hmm
time we become more aware, this reality is able to express more of our light and more of our freedom. So we gain freedom by becoming aware. So this plane isn't static, it's dynamic, and we're going to reach a place of soul level freedom here in the physical. But it happens at the same time that we as individuals reach soul level freedom in the physical. So it is in tandem. It's very transparent like that.
Yes. Yeah. As above, so below.
Yes, yes. On a super, super intricate scale. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
So, what do you say that this refinement looks like? What in a practical way, what can we do
Mm.
to refine ourselves to be able to know ourselves?
Yeah. So my teachings and what I have personally been shown and discovered is that unconditional love. And that's a concept that means, a million different things to a million different people, but it's really beyond words. At an energetic level, unconditional love, that's our logos as individuals, as a planet. And so the more that we come to know ourselves as that, the more we express that equals freedom, equals refinement. So it's actually very simple. It's not that you or some other person or this person over there needs to like change themselves or do something in order to refine their expression here. It's literally just understanding that you are love at the core and moving in the world as if that's true. I would say that's a really critical part is embodiment of that truth, not just letting it exist in concept at the higher levels of your field and sort of like playing with it and being like, yeah, okay, love, yeah, okay, but acting as if it's true. That is how to do it. That's how to bring out anything you want to bring out, how to refine anything and how to express more of yourself, how to gain access to more of your soul's essence in the physical. It's that simple. And your individual path to doing that is the thing that's going to be different for each person based on what programming you're overcoming, what exactly lack of knowing self as love that you are moving through, and how that presents. But I would say it's actually very simple and
Mm.
is broadly applicable that it's unconditional love. That's how you refine, is you just come to know self as that. Dare to believe that you are that and act as if it's true in your waking life, and it's inevitable that you will discover the truth of it. It's inevitable that you will expand and be able to refine your expression here.
Mm. Yeah, it is that simple.
Yeah, it really is that simple. And it's not simple, but applying that framework is at least mercifully simple.
Yeah.
How you sort of move through what tunnels that creates is up to the individual. But ultimately, if you can know yourself as that, it leads directly to being able to access your soul in the physical. And I mean
Mm.
that broadly, like psychic abilities, the quantum field, like every single thing, it goes back to that every single time.
Yep.
That actually creates the coherence in your field and your body in order to access it. And that's really all I find anyway. I know that there's a lot of external, I would say, permission slips that people want to be that, or they want to bypass knowing self as love. Sometimes they're like, that's I don't really connect with that too much, so I'd rather go try to improve myself or try to like do something, an activity or something adding on to me that I can become more. But actually, it's always stripping away. It's always stripping away every single time. So
Hmm.
that's what I have found. That's what I see.
Yeah. So just set out in the world and in your life with the intention of love, with
I
this
would say
knowing
so.
of love.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think I see as main barriers to understanding or expressing that are always within the self too. So it's almost like you don't need anything or anybody in order to discover this. And that's how it should be because you are complete. You are literally whole. So you don't need something from the external to discover that. And sometimes, so not sometimes actually, if people have a hard time sort of reaching that, I find that it's always within the self. They don't want to believe themselves as that, for example. But it does, I find it always comes back to that. And if you can dare for a couple minutes even or like a few seconds to think of yourself that way, you'll notice release, you'll notice expansion, you will notice that things make sense, for example, in a
Yeah.
logical way, not in a like airy fairy loosey goosey like supposition kind of way, but actually working in your life, practically applicable ways.
Hmm. Mm. Yeah, it all makes sense in the context of unconditional love.
Mm,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
just we look for it, as you said, in other things, especially other people, other
Hmm.
accolades, other stuff that's outside of us, you know? Some sort of like verification from the outside world. But really, it never does it justice. It never works
No,
that way.
no. What the outside can give you is a direct view into where you can't do that for yourself. That's it. So like
Yeah.
trying to find it in the external in a person, for example, and that not working out is showing you, hey, see how you can give it to yourself. See how they couldn't do it. And so
Yeah.
it's very helpful to work with the external world. It's not that we have to like forget about it, but knowing that it's a tool and that it cannot ever be the thing that gives it to you. It can't. That wouldn't be even fair to you to get it from the external instead of yourself because you are that. So you have to
Yeah.
connect with the truth of the universe that you are that. And that's really why it works. It's because it is physics and it is logical. It's just not appearing that way if you
Hmm.
purely take into account only the physical world, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point about what you said about how it wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
And in this viewpoint is complete fairness. Really
Yeah.
is. It's like it's all fair. It might not seem like it. It definitely might not seem like it from the phenomenal plane, but in actuality, it is all fair. In that, in some sort of way, it's all up to you. You are your own savior. Nobody else is going to save you. No one can threaten you, but no one can save you as well. It's this, it's a two-way street. I don't know if that was the right word to describe it,
Yeah.
but it's, yeah. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, and I see that, and I think actually that that's a beautiful thing that nobody else can give it to you because it's your birthright to discover that. And discovering it and actually taking the steps to take it for yourself is a
Yeah.
beautiful initiation, and it's your birthright, and you deserve that. And nobody can, no, it's so sacred. It's so sacred that I think it would be wrong if you could find it outside of yourself. And
Yeah.
in a way, I'm like, thankfully you can't. I believe that everybody deserves that opportunity, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing like being the one for yourself, and that's really what it is.
hmm
You discover that that can be you, and it actually has to be you.
It
That's the
has to
thing
be.
that I think is it has to be. Yeah, it
Yeah.
actually has to be you.
See, on one side of the coin, the mind might find that daunting.
Hmm.
Like, oh no, it's all up to me.
Yeah.
But that's the good news, is it's
It's the
all up
good
to you.
news. Right. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody will
Yeah.
ever take it from you. That's also what it means. And it also means
hmm
that it can never be threatened. And it also means that no matter what anybody says, they can't touch that. So in
Yeah.
a way, I think it's very, it's how it should be.
Yeah. That's true
Yeah.
power. That's true
Yeah.
power outside of the colloquial explanation of power that no one can take from you, as you said, where no one can impose their will on you either, really at a
Right.
deeper level. Like you have this sovereignty. We all have this innate sovereignty within. And that is truly a miracle to be able to be bestowed upon that, to have that enter one's being. I mean, it's always in your being. It always is you, but to at least realize that is truly miraculous.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, I agree. I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm only I start channeling too much and then like too much information comes in and I'm like, okay, okay, pick a thread, pick a channel.
I
Okay.
feel you.
Yeah. Um, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat what you just said? It's
Just
there's too much
hallelujah to the
information coming through.
miracle of our innate sovereignty. Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
one finds it and actually embodies it and lives on that wavelength, it is a miracle to be beholden. But also part of the miracle is it's a constant miracle. It's not only when one realizes it, it's constant. When you wake up in the morning, and when you go to bed at night and when you're sleeping. It is this constant unfolding miracle that one is bestowed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something that I see, at least in the collective, is that I think when you say something like that the power is within you, it's always within you, nobody can take it. Some people can kind of take a victim stance about that and say, like, well, I don't think that's fair, for example. And I actually would reframe that to be a very empowering thing that nobody can take it and it's always going to be there for you. And in fact, there's no rush either. There's no rush. I think people have a rush to finding their full expression, or they somehow think that if they don't do something in time or if they don't do this that they will lose it, and that's never going to be the case either.
Yeah.
That core of light and the spark of light that I see existing in the core of everybody, it also is your infinite potential that is never going to be unfurled without your consent too. So it's not either that you can miss anything, and I think that's an important thing to say as
hmm
well.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, we have eternity.
Yeah, literally. And
Yeah.
it's funny because we are, I mean, just a little nuance I would say is that a lot of us here now have come here from a higher frequency, which we can equate to the future because on the other side, frequency is like a map you can access. So the higher frequency is thought of as the future from our point of view, from our vantage
Ah,
point.
yeah.
So a lot of us are here from that future, kind of helping helping give these things away. And so it's not even that you really haven't done it already. A lot of people are doing this for like the third or the fourth time, and they are masters literally without being aware of it. And I want to put that to your audience that consider that you might already be a master. A lot of deprogramming and coming into your power is sometimes just that simple. It doesn't actually need to be that you start from the position that you are blank. A lot of people aren't, and they consider themselves that way. So I just wanted to put that to your audience that if, for example, you have notions that are very different than what you see in the collective, but you've seen them be proven true or they make perfect sense, think about giving those away or think about recording that somehow or like giving that away because I think that's also important to understand. I'm all about empowerment of people, and I see almost so many individuals walking around having that potential unfurled already within them, for example, and not understanding that because it's not really having a place to be expressed in our reality. And sometimes you have to create that space for it to express because you don't match. You don't match here. So that's why I was speaking about coming from a higher frequency. Only in that way is that you might not find that easy way for it to express. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And it doesn't mean that you don't know what you're talking about or that you're not meant to express it. You have to create that sometimes.
Mm,
And that's part of the work a lot of the time. So I just wanted to put that up there as well.
yeah, well, that's good. I've never seen it that way.
Hmm.
Where the higher frequency is just the future. I mean, it makes sense because this is the cliche, but time isn't real. From this
Yeah,
timeless nature, that makes the most sense, actually.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's interesting how it's really interesting when you think about it like that. I mean, I've been shown that it is like a map, literally. I mean, all time is a map on the other side. So they can access any of these points, just like we have access to space on our map. We can travel from here to another location on the map space-wise. They can do that with time very
Huh.
easily. It's no big deal at all. And it's
Wow.
just frequency shifting. It's just there's a coordinate, like a frequency coordinate for each single point in time. And so if you know that, you travel wherever. It's the same as geographic coordinates.
Wow. That's trippy.
Yeah, it's trippy. Yeah, yeah. That's
Wow.
why I kind of joke. I'm like, I'm a time traveler. We come from,
That's
but it's
funny.
not. It's just having fun because honestly, it's actually it's not that cool in a way. It's just that you just pick that and you're like, yeah, there. Okay, that can be useful. It's really thought of not in a. It's not linear at all. I mean, it truly isn't linear. It's a totally different calculation.
Wow. Yeah, I like to say I'm a secret agent from the future.
Yeah, and you are. Yeah, you
Uh,
are.
it's funny, I've always said that as a joke, but in the way that you just explained it, I'm like, wait a second, maybe I am James Bond from the
Maybe I
future.
actually am.
Yeah,
Yeah, you actually are. I mean, I meet
I
with
get
people
it
all the
now.
time where I'm like,
Wow.
no, like you really are from the future if you think about it from our vantage point. Only it looks like that from our vantage point. In
Yeah.
reality, and even in many dimensions, it's not like that. It's not like it would be thought of, oh, you're going back or you're going forward. It's just I'm going up or down, like over there, over there. It's nothing linear at
Hmm.
all. It's
No.
super trippy and interesting.
But it is difficult, I think, as you said, because you're going seemingly against the grain. You
Mhm.
know, one may actually feel like 007 from the future. You know, you're undercover here creating a new world amidst
Yeah,
this distortion.
yeah.
But it's worth it, I feel. And there's no more noble endeavor. There's no higher pursuit, if you even want to call it a pursuit. You know, it's like,
No,
what else am I
yeah,
gonna do here?
yeah. I feel that way as well. Can I tell a little story really quick? Because I
Yeah.
think I have something kind of relevant to that.
Okay.
Okay, I have a soul memory of being a teacher guide in the higher realms. Okay, and I was with this group of little new souls. They were so sweet, so new, hadn't had many experiences at all, and I was sort of guiding them to this forest. And what we were going to do is I was showing them quite boldly and without hesitation whatsoever, which is funny because my human can't exactly like fully relate to that, but in this context, I had no hesitation. We were in this forest and I would jump into a tree and incarnate into the tree for a long time, like hundreds of Earth years, and sort of I would become the tree, and I felt myself become the tree. Like it was a full-on visceral memory, and I would feel myself become the tree, and it was so interesting because it wasn't feeling confined. It wasn't feeling like you were trapped inside of a structure. However, I would feel myself extend to each single part of the tree and become that. And then I would come out of the tree, and the tree's essence would become a little more golden from my presence, having been there for that long. And I would be like, see, it's okay. It's awesome. Like, it's awesome. You can go ahead and jump in. Like, it's no big deal. And so they kind of started doing it, and I kept doing it in this forest. And so we were all kind of doing this together. And by the time we were done with this exercise, the whole forest looked slightly more golden. And I want to emphasize that because it was the equivalent of like thousands of Earth years of doing this work. And I was showing them with my feelings there were so that it was so worth it. Like, no, it's so worth it. It's a little tiny change, but like it's so worth it. And I just
Yeah.
captured that feeling that like it's the human can judge that and say like, oh, that's a lot of effort for like not that much difference. But on the other side, it was seen as incredible, like incredible, totally worth it, an amazing service to do. So I just wanted to put that out there that that's how our lives are seen as well. If
Hmm.
you do one kind act, if you do one small thing that's you trying to give love or improve the collective or do something selfless, it's seen as that. So I want to encourage people that you don't have to have an amazing thing going on or like something fantastical or profound in order to be making an insanely huge impact. Because what I took away from that memory was exactly that. It's that this tiny effect was having an insanely huge impact and that it was more worth it than anything to try to do that. So I just wanted to tell that story to kind of give that from the other side. It's seen that way here, what you do. So I think people are hard on themselves or they want to it to look a certain way to do the service, but actually just having one kind thought moves more energy and resolves more energy than you could imagine. So I just wanted to give that.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. We're just planting seeds here.
Exactly. And that's, yeah, and that's amazing. So even just doing one thing is like your whole incarnation's worth it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
People feel like, I think it's an epidemic of people feeling like they're not doing good enough or like they're wrong or they're bad or something. And it couldn't be
Yeah.
farther from the truth. It just
I
really
know.
couldn't.
Yeah. And it's so subtle, the path of love. It's so subtle.
Mm,
It shines in ways that are very ungrandiose.
yeah,
Just in the minglings that we have with each other, just sitting down and listening to somebody, or giving somebody a hug, or holding the door for somebody, holding space.
yeah,
That's really where it shines. You don't have to have a podcast or write a book or do any of
right.
that nonsense that we're doing right now.
I know, right? You really don't. I think the most powerful is just silent acceptance of whatever you
Yeah.
see. That's the most
Mm,
loving thing you could do or be, is just silently allowing everything to exist. That's it. That's really like God's point of view. It's just silently allowing everything to exist and loving it all. And I think
yeah.
that's as close as we can get to our full awareness. Funny
Yeah.
that the more aware, the more context we have, the more everything is fine. Like the more everything is just okay. It's okay and you can love it however it is right now. It doesn't need to change. I think that reflects how we feel about ourselves as we move along as well, because
Yeah.
it becomes from the start, it's like, oh God, I have to get over there. I have to do all this stuff to get like aware. And okay, that's really far away. I have to do all this stuff. And as you go along, it's literally, you just slowly sit down, stop talking, and you're like, oh, I see. I see.
Mm-hmm.
It was all fine the whole time. Sorry.
You're good. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Be still
crooked,
and
is it?
know what's happening.
I thought it was crooked. Totally kicked
Looks
this
good to
with my
me.
foot. Okay, awesome. Yeah, honestly, it is funny that that's how it goes. It tends to go that way, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a paradox that I grapple with personally as I'm a talker. So I'm like, well, sometimes I don't want to, talk all the time, but I think the context of where we are now is that talking helps. It helps discover that. So even if at the highest levels, it might be true that everything's fine, at least if you want to help people realize that it's fine, you might have to talk to them right now. So I think it's
Yeah.
okay ultimately.
Yeah. I like that though. God's point of view is from silent acceptance.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that you couldn't be doing anything wrong. How could you
Yeah.
be? How could you be doing anything wrong?
Hmm.
How could it? What an absurd situation. This is just kind of a side note, but what an absurd situation to think that you could be so veiled from your true self and be hard on yourself at the same time. Like how, what kind of, what kind of people are we to be so hard on ourselves under
Okay.
these conditions? It's really funny, actually.
Yeah, it is sort of a joke. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the grand joke.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we can drop being good or doing the right thing, honestly, I think we would move a lot faster.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, right. Usually
Mm.
us trying to do the right thing is doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like we're actually here specifically to explore what we don't know. So if we're always trying to know it, then we're not going to discover this not knowing that we're
Yeah.
actually here to illuminate. So we have
Yeah.
to be okay as a first step with not knowing. And
Mm.
that is step number one. And in the allowing everything, I think that's exactly what that is. You
Mm.
just say like, okay, it's funny because we'll see something and we'll say that's bad. And we don't understand that we really have like 0.01% context about what's going on with that thing. And we're
Yeah.
judging it purely from our lens of how we feel about ourselves. We don't really understand that. But if we just kind of allow space, and I find you don't need to do anything actively, just allow space for something to exist that you don't understand fully and allow it to be incomplete and allow you maybe to only know a little tiny bit of it. That actually much quicker allows you to tie threads and to put things together in an actual conscious way than if you have to make sense of something that you don't really understand yet.
Mm.
So I think being okay in the unknowing is really important as well.
Yeah. That's the irony of the spiritual path.
Yeah.
Is it starts with the premise of know thyself, but really how you know thyself is by letting go the pursuit of trying to know everything about thyself. It's to be okay with not knowing or unknowing thyself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's being able to hold like 700 pieces of context and not take your first thought about what all that means together and just
Mm.
allow it to be all of that at the same time. I think we have a hard time holding space for complexity and not knowing at the same time. If it's
Yeah.
complex and if it's a lot, we want to put it together. We want to like create the pattern. But the more we don't do that, the more we just don't do it, the more you can know. So it's just
Yeah.
holding the space of I don't know. The longer you can do that, the more you'll ironically know. And the more
Yeah.
complete the picture will get, the funnier it is.
Exactly. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The funnier it is, the more
Yeah.
nuance you can hold, provides more
Yeah.
context to the joke.
Yeah, and not needing it to make sense. I just think that's so
Mm.
important. Like it's okay that like that two things existed at the same time and that they might be opposite of each other, for example. I think actually
Yeah.
being able to hold the space for that is the integration of duality. It's
Yep.
okay. It's okay. They need to first be allowed to like be as they are, and then you can move forward into like synthesizing that into higher meaning.
Yeah. Damn. This is powerful stuff.
Yeah, we went really deep right away.
Get right
I
into it.
liked it. Yeah, I like that space though. That's kind of where I'm at all day, every day. So it's nice to talk about it actually.
Mm. Yeah, we touched upon that a little bit. If God is from this point of, what did you say, silent awareness? Why
Yeah,
do
I
we choose to
mean,
talk? Where does this come from?
yeah.
Is this just an expression of that silent awareness, the
Mm,
Shakti to Shiva? Why do we talk about it? If we really can't ever touch upon it with our words,
mhm.
what are we doing here? Is this part of the joke?
I think that so how I see it is like that there's the beginning, right? Let's just say that there's a beginning and let's just say there's a completion, okay? Let's
Yeah.
just start with that premise. We're like here. And this is what it looks like to be here. Like, this is what it looks like to know self this much. And we're doing great because we're moving along and we're doing wonderful, but we're right here. So here we speak because we don't know any better. And that's okay. That's perfect, actually, because it's going to evolve into like more and more complexity. And we're slowly going to be able to synthesize more and more information through our interface, which is our body, which will transform how we communicate. But right
Yeah.
now,
Mm,
we're cut off from our sensitivity. Um,
mm,
we're not really, but we don't understand that we have awareness of that sensitivity yet in order
yeah.
to do anything different. We think there is actually a barrier, even though right now, as we stand right now, if we just didn't think that there was a barrier, we would be communicating. So I think it's just that it's not even that it's like a static way of being. It's just that we're here right now and we're gonna go all the way over there, but we're not there yet. And so it's like perfect how it is right now.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
very, yeah, it's very incomplete. It makes me laugh. Literally, it makes me laugh. Thinking about all the ways that we are like that. We're just like right here. And the beginning is like right here because we're like trying to make existential meaning out of things that are just on the way. It's like trying to analyze why a baby can't do physics. It's like, what's
Oh.
wrong with us that this baby like can't do physics? But really, it's just a baby. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And so I think that's a funny, I always look at it that way and it makes me laugh. But I do see us as a spectrum. It's like we're always somewhere along the way. We're not really there yet. And it's not that it's fixed here. It's always shifting and we are shifting.
Hmm. Yeah. This is just part of the stage of evolution to wherever
Right.
there is. Who knows what there is? Maybe there is God.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Well,
But
yeah.
yeah, th this is just that stage is where we still have to use crude mouth noises, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. We
Hmm.
limit ourselves too, which is also the irony is that we don't really
Yeah.
have to be doing this right now. Like the reason why our interface isn't, knowing and as sensitive is only because, for example, I mean, you can look out into society and ask people, hey, do you think you're telepathic? They're like, absolutely not. That's fake. And it's like, okay, well, cool. Like, we're just chilling here then. We're just gonna keep chilling here and not having access to it until we decide that we want access to it, or
Yeah.
we decide that we think we actually do have access to it. So that's the other funny thing is that it's not even that everybody is people want their limitation. It's very relevant for a lot of learnings. You need limitations, so even that's fine. However long it takes, it's all right.
Yep. Mm. Yeah, so you're saying right now, if we wanted to, we could stop talking and communicate in actually a more efficient way than talking. But there's something in us that's holding us back. We don't actually want that, but theoretically and technically, we could. We can even communicate with the listener that is in the future. We could all link up in this telepathic way that is non-linear and non-local, but we
Hmm.
don't want to.
Consciousness is non-local fundamentally, so there is actually no barrier ever to any awareness. It's that hmm, we program our interface with our beliefs and our thoughts, and that's allowed, and that's free will, and that's a beautiful thing. We get to experience whatever we decide we want to experience. And so, what I'm here doing, for example, is trying to shift the program, which is saying that I am limited, or the program that is saying, this is fundamental to me, or whatever. Like, that's the only place we can really work at on this level is your belief systems. And so, yeah, I do see that. It's really just a self-limitation, and I don't even think it's a bad thing. I actually think it's perfect for like a very specific type of learning and knowledge, which is like, for example, being misunderstood can reveal a lot about you to yourself. And so if we don't have the experience ever of being misunderstood by, for example, having to use words that are silly and don't really do anything, if we never have that experience, we will never, perhaps, for example, connect to our commitment to express regardless of being understood or misunderstood. Whereas maybe that quality would be harder to develop if everybody understood your intentions all the time.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually refining our ability to show love in darkness, in blindness. And so part of it is having less than ideal conditions and limitations. And that's great. Like that's the only way you can develop certain things in our context. And that's why it's kind of foundational. That's why you get this after you don't need it. You get telepathy when you have connected with the people around you enough to have that connection. Whereas before, it's almost like, hmm, another way to put it is this is kind of like manifestation school, where it's very slow here. You don't have instant manifestation, and that's not a problem. That's wonderful because you would manifest all of your fears right away. We don't have
Oh,
the discipline and the maturity yet to have instant manifestation. So
yeah.
it's like a beautiful bumper to our abilities right now so that we learn how to manifest responsibly, for example, or not manifest our fears right away. So in this way, right, that's perfect because clearly people would be manifesting their fears right away. And we still do. It just takes a longer amount of time so that you can really work with that and refine it. And I see that broadly applying to a lot of our experience here.
Mm, yeah. Wow. Yeah. You're blowing my mind. You just, yeah, you just know these things. How do you know these things? Where does this all come from? What is your, I already kind of asked this in the beginning, but what is your background? Is this all just channeled?
So I have a lot of memories from the other side, and
Yeah.
I've always had them, but I literally thought that everybody did. And so I won't even say that I was disconnected from them, but I just kind of ignored them because obviously what I memorize or what I have a memory of is not really relevant here a lot of the time. So I was just like, oh, like, yeah, there's that, and then there's this. So, okay, cool. Um, but also I've had, I would say, I guess the term is spiritually transformative experience. Like, when I was 12, I was consciousness by location, taken out of body. I don't know how to describe it, and basically shown here what I'm doing here and the larger trajectory of my soul, and like way too much for a 12-year-old to take on, basically. So that integrated over time. And then I just kept having these like really mystical experiences, I would say. So, like this connection to the love we are at our core, that's not theoretical, that's not conceptual. I have felt that, and I almost disappeared from this plane. Like it was in my body. And that's why I think, like, for example, the amount of limitation we have, it's like it's perfect because I felt that having access to the love that we actually are, and you would explode. You would actually physically explode if you had that here. So like we're slowly conditioning our body, for example, to hold more of that. And it's so slow because it's incredibly powerful. But I felt that, for example. So that informs a lot of what I'm seeing. And as I've sort of said yes to experiencing those things and actually just keeping my eyes open as I experience them, that changes how I go about the world, which in turn changes how I experience it. So it's sort of like I'm fed like an experience, for example, and I take it and I actually integrate it. I'd say, okay, there's no denying that that's true. For example, I couldn't deny having felt that in the body and that it's true. There's no such thing as denying that. So you have to necessarily change XXX, which then manifests in your external reality. So you know it's true. And so I've
Yeah.
had confirmation. I will say that I've had confirmation of a lot, and that's so lucky. And I feel very grateful for that because that's why I'm speaking like this and as if it's true, because it's not to me theory. I actually have been mercifully gifted confirmation. So, for example, if I'm shown something in a spiritual way, I don't just leave it at that and leave it at that. It's either that it can be proven or I work with it and then I prove it and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's tested. Time try to test it. So that works. But I just think I've had a merciful amount of confirmation, honestly. That's what it is. I'm very lucky, and I don't think that's a usual experience. But for example, okay, I'll give you an example. There was an experience that I had where I went to sleep one night and I asked, I would like to meet my soul family. Like, I really need to. I really want to. I was feeling kind of disconnected and I would like guidance. So I just sincerely asked right before bed, and then I went to sleep. And that night, right before waking up, I would say that I had a consciousness by location experience again, where I was on a ship and I was face to face with a mantis being, which was like this opalescent rainbow white color that I've never seen here before. Eyes, which it was like the universe were in their eyes. And they just sort of, it was just this connection face to face for maybe 15 seconds. And then I was taken out of that experience. And that changed my life. I mean, there's no way to convey how that felt and how it was in the moment. But so I won't try. But what I will say is that that very morning when I woke up, um, I lived in a place that was very cold. There was no insects, for example, flying around or anything like that. And I walked downstairs and on the banis I don't know what to call this, the ball when you're going on stairs.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
there was a mantis right there, a huge mantis right there, sort of just positioned there. No such thing had ever occurred before. No, there was no mantises. I'd never seen a mantis in this place even. I don't think they were even common. So that happened, and then another one appeared in the kitchen. So things like this, where they're kind of just like wink, wink. And I honestly think that's because I am a very scientific and logical and um, I really am a quite like intellectual person, cerebral person. I love that place, you know? So I think I needed it, to be honest, in order to like be like, okay, I actually have to do something with this, or I actually can't deny this anymore. So I was quite pushed, actually, despite my confidence and sureness now and what I'm saying. Like I had to be really pushed. And I think those
Mm,
confirmations that I got were specifically because I am the way that I am. And so I don't think it would have taken other people necessarily as many mystical experiences, but I have so many that I've experienced. And that's like I wouldn't even consider that a mystical experience. It's just a cool, example of getting confirmation from one of the experiences. But there's so many more than that. And so, yeah, I think I'm just lucky that I got confirmation of what I'm saying, and it's not really theory.
yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. That's classic synchronicity right there.
Yeah.
And
And
this
I
go
would,
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say, and now it's kind of an open channel. And now I do maintain an open channel, whereas before
Uh
I did have a channel and it was going and it was working, but again, it's like I hadn't connected with the frequency stream of me because if I'm a spectrum and like that open channel to my higher essence was always running, but it was like a part. And so it wasn't really, now I've dialed in on it and I've zoomed in on it and I'm like, oh, okay. And I kind of stretched it out to be my whole self. So now I constantly experience that open channel. And so it's very open. Now I can just ask and receive and like it
mm,
works like this now. So it did evolve over time.
mm-hmm.
And I would say a lot of what I'm talking about has integrated as a result of all of those experiences, not really that I got this information within those experiences.
Yeah, that just gave you the glimpse into it, right? It made you question your rationale and logic a little bit to make you go, huh.
I would say I wasn't even ever closed off. Like I was never like, no, that's not true. In fact, I was always like, this doesn't make sense. Like what we're thinking here, it's clearly not the thing. So I'm open. I'm open. But
Yeah.
then I would say that it wasn't even like it made me question. They were mind-blowingly intense experiences that took months, oftentimes, to integrate in the body. Like they were like when I felt that love that we are, for example, my whole body was vibrating extremely for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and there's no denying that. Like there's no, it's like you immediately have to confront all of it at once. I wouldn't even say it was subtle. So that's another funny thing about my experiences is that they're not subtle at all. In fact, they're so undeniable. And yeah, I think that is because I needed that maybe to believe them, but I can't say for
Mm.
sure. I know that I planned them, but other than that, I think it's funny how intense they are actually. It makes me laugh.
Yeah. You sort of have to laugh. I feel you. I've had plenty of
Yeah.
those experiences as well, where it's just like you have to laugh because it's like, how did this match up at this time in this
Yeah.
place with this person? It's just, and there's no other reaction other than to laugh at it all. And like you said, yeah, you might have planted it yourself in some sort of esoteric way, like you played a joke on yourself, but either way, it's a joke. And Yeah, I feel as though all of us have that in some way. We all have the signs there. You just have to be open. You just have to ask and you will receive. That's the
Yeah.
two-way street is you have to have your channel open in order for the channel to come in. But if you're not asking, you're not going to receive.
No, or if you think you know the answer, for example, because
Mm,
I can say for sure that nothing I'm saying is like immediately apparent, obviously, from existing in the world, right? You wouldn't exist in this world and think, oh, the foundation, the literal physical foundation of everything is love. Obviously, right? Look around, it's all love. But when you know that, and then you look at the world, you're like, oh, yeah, everything, the foundation is love. So it's almost like you can't really I don't know. It's an interesting thing because I do find that having those types of undeniable experiences which reveal truth to you, you can see the truth then if you look at it through that experience. But before, it was not available. And so you had to analyze and see things from your limited perspective. And yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. Because
mhm.
having the truth and applying it, it's like, oh yeah, you can see the threads of everything connecting. And
Yeah.
personally, I will say that when it comes to like unconditional love, I, to me, it's easy to find. It's easy. It actually, knowing that connects threads automatically around. So you can actually piece together what reality is telling you just by knowing that alone. And that's
Mm.
why I think it's the most powerful thing because you can walk everything backwards from it, absolutely
Oh,
everything
yeah.
backwards from it.
Hmm.
Whereas you can't really walk anything backwards from, for example, the lens of judgment.
Or
It ends
fear.
very abruptly. Yeah, it ends very abruptly in that oh, I put a wall. Okay, cool. Now that's good. Now that's it. And it feels you can't go to the end, for example. You can't go all the way to the end unless you
Yeah.
consider something else.
Hmm. All dots connect to unconditional love.
Yeah. It's actually the only
Yeah.
thing that can connect all of this seeming chaos and
Yeah.
nonsense is that. That's the only
It's the
thing that can
order
make it make
amidst the
sense.
chaos. Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, wow. Truly. Yeah. And once you pierce the veil, per se, there's no going back. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, man.
You cannot. No, it's because you recognize truth and your body recognizes truth and your body is like a super quantum computer system so it just starts running the program once you see the truth it docks immediately with your body and it has to run the program so you can you don't really have a choice. Yeah, I agree. I think there's no unseeing anything like that
No, you
and you
can't
don't want to
uninstall love.
either. No, you can't. It becomes you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And like you said, you wouldn't want to either.
No, 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 it's so sacred like now that oh man I think you gain the connection to yourself too through that so you wouldn't really it's the coming home. So you wouldn't be like, okay, now that I'm home, uh, you're not seeking anymore. Like it is coming home. There's no more seeking
Mm.
really after you know yourself as that. It's just at that point seeing what's the truth because of that, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. That's the prodigal son right there.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. This is pretty powerful. You are a powerful being, and I honor having you on here. This is very unique conversation for me, to be honest with you. You're very straight
it's
to the
very
point and stoic and yeah, sorry, did you have something to say?
no, 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 no. I'm just excited and I was just gonna say like you're a powerful being as well and I really do appreciate being on and yeah, I really liked this conversation too. So thank you. Thank you for
Mm.
having this platform and for using your power this way. It's a very cool use of your power.
Well, same to you, right back at you. You know, it's only
Thank you.
possible because of people like you. Not that I don't think there is anyone like you. I've had a lot of conversations and this one is quite unique. And yeah, I mean that. I'm not just saying that because we're
Yeah.
here on the mic. Keep doing your
Yeah.
thing. Seriously.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I will try. It's gonna sound funny, but there's this clip of Steve Irwin and they were interviewing him. They're like, would you do this with money? Would you do this with money? He's like, sure, give me the money. I'll just keep buying land and keep preserving wildlife. And like that's just what I'm gonna do, and that's just what I'm
Mm,
gonna do. And I
mm,
feel that. I'm like, yeah, so it's my onus. I'm never gonna stop because I can't. I just cannot.
Mm,
So I appreciate you, and I will do my best to continue. And I
that's
do
it.
want to continue always spreading this.
That's it. Yeah, forever and always. Spreading the good word. It's the
Yes.
gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, on that note, I mean, do you have anything else you want to say though? I think we can start to wrap it up, but if you have some final words beforehand, feel
Hmm.
free.
One thing is coming through, and this is very, very random. It might seem unrelated, but I've been getting vision of there being some sort of cyber attack, some sort of technological disruption that might happen this year.
Hmm.
And in a way, it's going to serve as kind of an ego death to humanity with technology
Oh
about
yeah.
using it as an external means, externalizing your power, externalizing your knowledge, externalizing your connection, all of this. And I just wanted to put a small message out there that is going to say that you can develop everything that technology gives you inside of your own biotechnology. You have a very powerful biotechnology, which is your body, and it blows all capabilities that we currently have out of the water. So
Mm,
if this happens, never feel dependent on that for anything. Understand that we're just being provided the opportunity to develop that internally.
mm.
So I know that's a weird final
Yeah.
note, but I do feel like it's important to understand that.
No, that is important. And even if it doesn't happen in such a drastic way, it can happen in even small ways. You can have technological disruptions where the internet goes down. We've all felt that.
Right.
And
Yeah, we can apply it regardless.
yeah, exactly. We don't need this technology. I think the point of what you were saying is that we have this technology all innately. You know, we
Hmm.
have the internet within. We are all connected
Hmm.
within. We have all the information that you would want from ChatGPT or Wikipedia or
Hmm.
Google, all within this vessel, this super quantum computer, as you call it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point.
I think yeah, I think it would be ultimately a good thing for humanity. I think if we're on the right path, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be a bad thing to happen because
Yeah.
it's really just balancing us and showing us our
Yeah.
own capabilities, where we would rather externalize our evolution and development. And
Mm.
that's coming from someone that loves technology. I really do. I'm an internet like kid, and I love the internet, and I never
Yeah.
want anything to happen to it. But I do think we're approaching that point where we're going to need to reckon with it in any case. So
Yeah.
it's nothing to be scared of in any case.
No, it's a good point. I kind of want to bounce off this topic because
Yeah, go
this is
ahead.
good. I know we were going to wrap it up, but yeah, we hold technology right now as a part of our identity. Just think about social media, but it's almost like another appendage. It's like another aspect of who we are at this point, when it's really not. It's just a falsity. It's just another part of the illusion of who we are. So I do agree with you on the point of it being a collective ego death, right?
Yeah,
We hold so much, it holds so much weight on who we are, or who we think we are at least. So if it all just went down like this, like no warning, just all of a
yeah.
sudden, it would be just a spontaneous ego death for many of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we outsource our power to technology. I mean, I'm kind of shocked sometimes. I hear people when I say something, they're like, where did you learn this? Or where did you get this information?" And I'm like, it came from within. And they can't even conceptualize that. And I think that is needing calibration. So things
Mm,
like that. People can be empowered, actually. We don't need to outsource our power to external means. And it, hmm, it's kind of two different distinct orientations I see emerging, which is that complete outsourcing of power to technology. And then on the other hand, it's a having to grapple with the fact that you can't do that. And I think there's going to be both streams emerging. It's going to be really
mm.
interesting.
Really interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. May you be born in interesting times, and these are the times. These are the
Oh, yeah.
interesting of the interesting times.
They've arrived. Yeah.
They have arrived.
Here we
Yeah, we
are.
have
Let's
arrived.
go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, that just leads me more into the case of our technology and what we're doing now being miraculous. Because if it all does vanish, I'll think back to the times when I had the conversation with Yeshuani, and you are in Hawaii, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're across the world,
Woo.
and
I'm
we're
so
doing this like
sorry.
we're in. Oh, you're good.
This is what it's like. Me and my technological ineptitude. Here we go. Let's just lean into it. Anyway,
That's the
yeah.
imperfectness of the technology that we have right there.
Yeah, I think that's more reflective of my own, but yes,
But yeah, point of my story is doing this truly is an honor to be able to do this and have this kind of conversation
I
with people
agree.
like you. It's really cool. And yeah, I thank you for coming on here today, Yeshwani, and I wish you all the best.
Thank
Seriously.
you. Thank you too. And I wish you all the best and anybody listening.
Yes. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's it. Peace and love to you, and peace and love to anybody that listens to this song.
Love to everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.